And welcome into another edition of the Aggie Insider Zoomcast. Scott Marsh with you here. We continue to bring you UC Davis athletics guests and people affiliated with the department on a weekly basis, trying to keep you up to date on everything going on during this pandemic. This week, our guest, very proud to have the UC Davis women's soccer coach, Tracy Hamm. Tracy, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, just making the most of this every day. So
Absolutely. And I should say, of course, our Zoomcasts are brought to you as always by your local Geico office. During the COVID crisis, your local Geico office is open until 8 p.m. each evening to assist you with all your insurance needs. Give them a call at 916-923-5050. That's 916-923-5050. And let the people who do it best help you. So, Coach, obviously, tough times in the fact that we just don't know quite what's going on. You're itching to get back on the pitch, be with your student athletes, and try to resume some semblance of a normal life. That's not possible right now. So how are you keeping everybody in touch?
Oh, well, what we did, and I actually think it's been going really well. We've obviously had to kind of figure it out as we go. But what we did is we created a syllabus of sorts so that our student athletes could kind of, most student athletes are very routine driven and they like schedules. So we created more or less a syllabus that kind of requires them to do different activities every week. So they have to watch a couple of different videos. They have to do a reading of an article or a chapter in a book. And then we actually also have them do a general entry. So we do like a different prompt every week just so we can check in on mental health. And we know this is like a difficult time. So gives us an opportunity to kind of dive into how they're feeling about things. And we meet once a week in a small group and we reflect on the videos and the readings that we do. And then once a week we meet as a full team. And that's more like we play games and we do, a bunch of different activities and they're always themed. So last week they had to dress like their favorite artist, which was very funny. The week before they dressed like their favorite, or not their favorite, but like frat boys. This coming week, I'm not sure what the theme is, so we'll see. But we've tried to make light of it and, get something positive out of it for sure.
Yeah, you're certainly having some fun. That's great. I know you like routines too. How are you keeping your routines up?
Yeah, I do. The first couple of weeks were tough, but I think I've caught it in stride now. I do my hike in the morning with my dog, do a couple of Zoom calls, I go work out, come back, probably a couple more Zoom calls. And then I've been a part of a lot of different webinars and podcasts, which has been kind of fun. I'm also involved in an organization called that we're starting. It's going to be like a national organization that basically kind of unites different women's committees and different advocates for women in soccer, and kind of provides like a national platform for us to exchange ideas and, host summits moving forward.
Well, Tracy, I wanted to kind of throw back because 1 year ago this week you were back in New York. They were releasing the video that you had done, the great accomplishment, talking about the UEFA Class A coaching certificate. And I just want you to kind of think back to 1 year in your life, where you're at today versus where you were at 1 year ago. It's got to be just a total juxtaposition.
It has been a whirlwind. As amazing, as 2019 was, I was obviously very much looking forward to 2020, but it's funny. Like I started at UC Davis May 15th. So in 3 days, and I've just had the most amazing time. And obviously the film has kind of been taking off, and I had a lot of different opportunities to actually travel all over the world, going to different screenings and been a part of a lot of different events, mainly, with the kind of the impetus and the idea behind it to just elevate the women's game as much as I can and provide opportunities for, women to excel in leadership positions. And the film for me is really kind of a conversation piece where it's kind of like a call to action now. So, okay, this film is made, now what? And so for me, it's about, empowering women and giving us some autonomy and kind of momentum moving forward to, make sure that we're doing whatever we can to elevate our game and give women opportunities that they might not have otherwise had.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have heard your story, but for those who have an opportunity for us to kind of let them in, just talk about the process of going through it and getting that special certification. You're one of two coaches in the United States who have that rare classification, which is quite an accomplishment for you. Talk about your process going through all of that.
Yeah, it was wild. There, a couple different reasons why I chose to go to Europe to pursue this license. But one of the main things is like, I just want to be the best in my field in terms of providing the best experience for my student athletes. And with that, I wanted to know more about why is the European game so strong and what do they know that I don't know? And so being like one of the only females on the course, it was obviously um, very difficult, very intimidating in a lot of ways. But once I, had finished the UEFA B, I learned so much, and it was so incredibly powerful from a not only professional standpoint, from a personal standpoint, to kind of endure and survive, putting myself, in a really challenging environment, and then gaining so much from it that it, almost kind of catapulted me like into wanting more and, not really feeling satisfied. Like I know that there's so much more out there. So that's why I pursued the UEFA A, and that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's about a year and a half of coursework, and it's about 400 hours of like remote work that you have to do. And again, being the only female, it was difficult because there wasn't a lot of people that I could like rely on or talk to. But it was my mentors there were amazing. My mentors here in the United States were fantastic, and I surround myself with pretty good, high-performing individuals, or at least I like to think so, especially UC Davis, and they've been really supportive of everything that I've done. So it's been fun. I just keep trying to challenge myself and take adversity head on, and it's been an awesome year.
That's fantastic. Now, do you want to introduce us to your dog in the background?
Sorry. Murphy, yeah, come here. He always says hi. He comes to all of our games.
He wants a little love, I can tell.
He does. Like, Murphy, come here. Here he is. He has a bed under my desk, and so he knows his space. But I'm sure he heard someone come in, I know.
Yeah, no, it's all good as we talk with Women's head soccer coach Tracy Hamm. This edition of the Aggie Insider Zoomcast being brought to you by Solid West Village. Enjoy the best of student life at our UC Davis off-campus housing, located just a few minutes from campus and conveniently close to dining options and the latest nightlife hotspots. If you're ready to see what student housing truly has to offer, schedule a virtual tour with us today and make Solid West Village your new home. Call 530-759-0661. You mentioned it's almost your year anniversary at UC Davis. Just catch us up on your first season as head coach and how that went for you.
Yeah, I getting hired this close to the start of date of, training camp. I had, big expectations like I always do for myself and the people that are around me. But I think that the results were fair. I think that we had, success in a lot of different ways. My main kind of goal for this past season, my first season, was to really just understand the traditions and understand the trajectory of the program and the type of student athletes that are here. What are their focuses? Like, what are their, what kind of dreams do they have, not only for their program, but for their careers and for their life and longevity. And then to kind of take all those different factors and then put my own stamp on it in terms of establishing our own culture and our own values and, finding ways to make the program successful on and off the field. So really that's what the focus was in the winter quarter, was to kind of be more specific and to kind of put in some of those value pieces onto the field and what that might look like. Because I know that they're very hardworking individuals off the field. Academics are a huge priority. And so for me, I really wanted to find that balance of making sure that their performance on the field also was, had the same kind of passion and drive that they have in the classroom. Because I want us to be a successful soccer program. I want to be a powerhouse. And I really wanted to showcase, how can we change the mentality of this program into a winning culture. And that's not just off the field, but on the field as well.
And of course, you played at Cal. Are there a lot of similarities between Cal and UC Davis? A lot of people think they are. You would know a lot better than some.
I would argue that there's not really many at all, actually. Yeah. It's just a different environment. It's a completely different vibe, different energy. Not bad or good, just very different. And for me, that's something, that I want to know the best parts about UC Davis, not just from the athletic department, but what makes Davis Davis? Like, why did we come here? What are our limitations? Are there any? And then maybe how can we use some of those, the things that make UC Davis special to our advantage to enhance our women's soccer program?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked with women's head coach Tracy Hamm. Obviously, as you look for year 2 and beyond with the Aggies, so much uncertainty. It's not even a fair question to ask you what year 2 could look like for you. But as you have your plan in place, what is year 2 supposed to look like for you? Are you able to implement it now in terms of recruiting other elements that you might be doing at this point in time? How is that all going for you?
Sure. There's obviously a lot of unknowns, like you said. I think what's exciting is we have 12 seniors this year. So we've got a lot of leadership, a lot of experience, which is going to help us. Obviously not having, a spring quarter, which is when we played all of our games and could kind of really focus on the tactical side of the game and like implementing our strategy moving forward into the fall is going to be a challenge. But we've got some really good recruits coming in that I'm excited about. And I'm a big believer that the best programs are team led by the individuals. And I'm glad we had the winter quarter at the very least to kind of start scratching the surface of what that might look like. But I'm excited about the players we have coming in. I'm excited about the returners. And the biggest piece for me that I'm honestly looking the most forward to is probably just the self-accountability piece, because that was one of the biggest focuses this winter is, when you guys come back for training camp, like it is all on you. If you show up ready, you show up ready. If you don't, then there's not one person that's responsible other than you. So in terms of what we were trying to accomplish this winter, I think it's going to be crystal clear when they come back in August of who handled the biz, on the off season and who didn't, and who's ready to move forward, because I can't imagine a group of more motivated individuals. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Do you have any firm or fast timelines in terms? I know we're all just waiting to hear back, and obviously we'll be directed by the public health officials in the state of California. But in terms of that map, is there any hard set deadlines in your mind at all?
No, I mean, as of now, it seems like it's just completely up in the air. I do know that a lot of the season might be either pushed back, or we might kind of be limited by regional travel. So some of those preseason games have been canceled already, and it's going to be difficult to reschedule. There's only so many Division I teams in the area. So we might be looking at only playing conference. I mean, there's a lot of different ideas being floated, and a lot depend obviously on like us having a football season or hybrid of classes, online or on campus. So, ideally we show up August 4th, like we're supposed to. And if our first game isn't until the middle of September instead of the end of August, I'm sure we'll make the best of it. And for me, that wouldn't be the worst things, considering we didn't get that spring quarter. We can almost kind of implement the things that we wanted in the spring and just input them into the fall. And we got a little bit more time than we normally would.
Yeah, it feels like the training camp periods are going to have to be longer for all sports, regardless of what happens, correct?
Right, absolutely. And what's nice about the Davis weather, it's not like it's bad, even in December, it's still pretty nice.
Yeah.
And so we'd be okay pushing it back. Just as long as we can get a season in,
Yeah.
I'd be happy. My seniors would be very happy, I'm sure. So
yeah, it's so heartbreaking for all the students this past spring who are unable to, especially the seniors, able to finish their careers, or in the winter sports with basketball, they were just right at the championship part of their season, not to finish it. Certainly heartbreaking.
It's devastating. Yeah.
It really is. Tracy, I wanted to ask you, just kind of broadening out a little bit about women's soccer in general. Obviously, the U.S. women's national team has been in the news so much, and the lawsuit and everything going on in terms of how they're trying to make sure that they're equally represented in terms of not only what they've shown in popularity and their success, but financially as well. Just wondering if you have some comments on that. You played at Cal. You know some of the players on the national team pretty well, I have to assume, and maybe you give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I do. I played with a lot of them. A couple of them are my roommates in Atlanta when I was playing pro. And I mean, they're using their platform for a good cause. The equality and the equity that they're seeking is something that obviously women have been very misrepresented, especially in the sports world. And luckily we've got really, really intelligent, opinionated, motivated women that aren't scared to use their voice, that I think are shedding light on obviously more serious societal issues. But it's disappointing that what happened in the last judgment, but this group of women's not going to stop fighting for what they believe in. And there's a lot of different things that go into the suit, and I don't really know if there's been an article that's actually been able to like communicate all different sides effectively, because obviously there's bias, and you can spin things however you want. There are two sides to the case, though, absolutely, and I'm hoping that they find at least somewhere in the middle, obviously more to the side of what I think the women ultimately deserve. But if they can come to an agreement that's fair, then I'd be very excited for them, and I would hope that would be the result would kind of trickle down and translate to our culture in the United States or abroad as well, in a bigger kind of capacity.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. It's a journey. It's a process. It's kind of a step-by-step incremental thing. It's a fight for human rights, just like we've seen so many other aspects of society. But I don't think anybody can argue the popularity of women's soccer nationally or the success of that team. There's no question about that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And explain to us too, I know on the men's side, the World Cup is everything. The Olympics are not quite the same because they play the under 22s and it's not
Right.
the same competition. On the women's side, correct me if I'm wrong, the Olympics is a huge deal. Am I fair to say that? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think the World Cup is still like the pinnacle just because it's a soccer tournament, whereas the Olympics is obviously,
Sure.
a tournament of, a lot of other sports. So the World Cup definitely is the biggest soccer tournament. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, who doesn't want to win a gold medal? And that carries a lot of weight, obviously, in the United States, with soccer not necessarily being the most popular sport. A gold medal means probably more than a World Cup championship to people that don't necessarily know soccer or know the sport or aren't as invested globally. But yeah, I mean, winning the Olympics is something that everybody dreams of. So I mean, I wouldn't say, no, being a footballer myself, I wouldn't say that the Olympics means more than the World Cup. I think that they're fairly comparable, but I mean, World Cup gold medal, both are going to be on the wall. So,
absolutely. And I guess what I'm trying to say, the restrictions aren't the same.
correct.
Inside of it is the men's. So you're putting your top players against top players.
Right. Absolutely. So
yeah. All right. Well, I know you want to get back to your routine, so we'll let you do that. I appreciate your time very much. Hopefully we can check in with you, and we're keeping our fingers crossed and hoping, first of all, that everybody's staying healthy and safe and doing the right things. But we're also hoping that we get to a point where we can come back and we can come watch women's soccer here at UC Davis soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep, that's Coach Tracy Hamm. Again, that's going to do it for this edition of the Aggie Insider Zoomcast, brought to you by your Geico local office. Next week, we're going to have Britton Lamar. If you'll remember him, he was one of the stars of the 2017 UC Davis men's basketball team that went to the NC2A tournament for the first time in school history. Until next week, stay safe, and as always, go Ags.